Joined us. This is Sam McLean. I'd like you to put your name and maybe email where you're from in the discussion chat box there. So, A, we know who's here with us, and we get started when we get a few more people, and B, we get you using the chat box. So we'd like to see some interaction in these calls.
You have been muted. Your microphone has been turned on.
Welcome, Kevin and Cliff from North Carolina. Appreciate those of you who are logging in now. This is Sam McLean with Travelers Marketing. We just want to get share with everybody who all is here, and lets us know when we've got the majority of people who've RSVP'd. We'll get started in a minute or two. David Fink, welcome. Tiffany, this is Sam McLean. I was at Seattle DOT yesterday, and they were telling me about the Oregon program. So it's good to have you on the call. See, South Carolina is in the house, along with John McClellan from Minnesota. Welcome. For those that don't know, Texas DOT has been growing a HERO program that they're managing now. They've had it before with some toll roads and some others doing it. Now Texas DOT is starting to grow their own program. So welcome, Jeff. I need a mirror here to talk about who I see, for those of you that are old enough to get that reference.
You look like Miss Marshall.
All right. Thank you. I knew you were old enough. Okay, I'm going to officially open this one up here. I appreciate you all continuing to fill in your names and such so I get an idea of who's joined us. This is Sam McLean with Travelers Marketing. This is, of course, the Safety Service Patrol Idea Sharing Network. It is intended to be a network, so we'd appreciate those of you that are on the call and are enjoying them, that you'd share this information and this opportunity with others, either in your department that would have interest or even with other states. We're trying to grow this. I think we're providing a lot of good information every 3 months or so, and it is all archived at safehighways.org. If you're just joining this for the first time or second time and you want to go back and see some of the previous conversations we've had, they're all on safehighways.org. My good friend Tim Moran has joined us. Welcome, Tim. Today's topic, of course, is debris removal. I'm not going to get too much into that because we've got moderators and folks who will talk us through the debris removal. I just want to remind those of you about this idea sharing network. Some of you are new. Todd Lease from the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission is going to moderate. I'm going to turn it over to him shortly. This is, as I mentioned, Sam McLean. I do work with the safehighways.org along with Liz LaBelle, safehighways.org. For those that don't know, Liz and I both work for Travelers Marketing. We work with patrols around the country on sponsorship, and in doing that, sort of realize this opportunity or gap, if you will, to get all of you together and sharing your information. So that's what sort of started these calls, and I think this is our 13th quarterly call now. And most recently, we have been under the umbrella of NOCO, the National Operations Center of Excellence. And Nilu is here on technical services. She set us all up here today, so hopefully you all can hear me. And the slides are changing, and the videos will run. I do want to make a mention about the videos. This particular presentation on debris removal, we've got several videos, and I know that depending on your speed of how you're seeing us, the videos may be slow or problematic. So Liz has been kind enough to provide separate links If you want to go and watch the video directly on a YouTube or afterwards, we'll make all that available for you. And all of the presentations you're going to see, all the slides and such, will be available, as I mentioned earlier, on safehighways.org. So you don't have to take furious notes or pictures of your monitor. We'll make sure you get copies of any of this stuff. We leave the discussion group open, the chats, so if you want to ask somebody questions that way, you can. Or certainly there's an opportunity to raise your hand at the very top of your screen, a little guy holding the hand up, or maybe it's a girl, I don't know. But that way we'll know if you have a question you want to get involved. This is redundant now. I've done all this already, so that's who I am. If you haven't met me, I look forward to that opportunity. Hopefully your phone is muted. I think we're muting you, if I'm not mistaken, from our end. I'm not sure if the unmute, press *# if you want to ask a question directly. We love that, by the way. Adds a little variety, and some of you know each other, so it's nice to hear your voices as well. If you've dialed in by phone, it sounds like everybody's computer speakers are off, but that can often give us feedback. And we have had on this call somebody place it on hold, so we get to listen to hold music and really nothing else. So if you do need to step away, just don't place your call on hold. Most of you, I think, are signing in on the chat box. I hope everyone is doing that, just so we can all see who we're talking with here. And as I mentioned earlier, the presentations, that's safehighways.org, and there's a resources spot where you'll find this presentation after we're done today, and then all the others we've done. We talked about the raise your hand option. You can also type in your question, and Liz or I or someone will see it and ask it. But the raise hand method is a nice way for us to let you speak directly. This is who our audience generally is, who the call is meant for. I think we've been pretty good about this. On this particular, we generally do not include on this call vendors, third-party operators, or suppliers of equipment, that sort of thing. This call is a little bit of an exception. We've invited Autobase onto the call because of their experience in several states with debris removal, and we'll get to them in a minute, but I did want to let you know that's generally how the format has gone. It's been pretty tight to SSP managers from the state DOT or toll road authorities, and then your FHWA division administrators are also certainly welcome on this. I want to thank our steering committee members. These guys have been with us now for several of these calls. Liz and I are not experts in what you all do for a living, so it's great for us to have a council or committee that we can bounce things off of, and they're sharing ideas and some of their contacts. So Jason's going to speak in a minute. Todd is our moderator, and John has been moderating several of these. So we appreciate you guys and all you do there. If somebody is interested in getting more involved with this group, we're always looking for presenters, maybe even steering committee members. If anybody wants to do this intro, I'm glad to turn that over. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We have something really, I think, exciting and new. I'm glad you're all able to join for it. It's called Industry Update, but it's about an association that is being formed specifically for the Safety Service Patrol industry. So I think you're going to enjoy that conversation. And then we'll get into our topic for today, which I mentioned is debris removal. We have Tim Peck from Maryland DOT. He's going to show us what they use to clean up the streets, the highways. I'm going to actually come back on and cover one product, and then Owen from Missouri DOT is going to cover how the tool that Missouri DOT uses, and Kansas. Liz is going to join us because she couldn't get to go to Australia. Liz, you're going to do an Australian accent, I hope. She's got something. She's got something from Australia that's we wanted to share with you. And then, as I mentioned, we've got a couple of guys from Autobase. They're going to talk about training for debris removal. So that's our plan for today. We hope to wrap this up by 2:45 or 2:50. You can ask questions, as you know, throughout the presentations, and we'll try to leave time at the end as well if there's something we didn't cover. All right, that is where we are headed. And I think we're going to start with Jason Josie. So we'll unmute Jason, and I'm excited to hear about the Industry Association. Jason?
All right, Sam, I appreciate it, man. For the first time in a long time, I got butterflies in my stomach getting ready to do this presentation. Like Sam said, it's very, very good information, particularly from our perspective about the association. So the Safety Service Patrol Industry Association is something that many states have been working very, very hard to try to put together for all states that do what we do for a living. It's an idea whose time has passed, we think, and we're also happy to say that we believe that we've got a really good head start in getting this thing off and running in a positive direction, but we need your support. So our vision statement is this: to unify the Safety Service Patrol professionals across the nation through the exchange of ideas, policies, procedures, protocols, and best practices of our members. The results will include increased uniformity / continuity, increased effectiveness, and improved efficiency, thereby bringing increased focus and awareness of the traffic incident management career field while enabling each SSP entity to maintain its own identity. Now, professional. So what this organization's plan is to do is to professionally represent every single operator or member agency within this industry across the country. We're all experiencing some of the same kinds of hurdles. We're all experiencing some of the same kind of triumphs, but in our own individual way, we're all kind of doing it on an island, so to speak. We're all fighting for information and scratching for communication. So this association will professionally represent those agencies across the country, as well as raising awareness and recognition for them. Because if you're anything like we are here in Georgia, awareness to the public and other agencies, believe it or not, and recognition is a huge deal, particularly because it is sometimes a matter of life and death. You know, many of us don't have time to try to explain to individuals when we're standing in the middle of the interstate what business we have on a scene. So raising awareness and recognition is very, very important for all of us, regardless of what level of service you're giving to the public. Your recognition and the awareness of what it is that you're laying your neck on the line for every day is very, very important. We're also going to have create a way to adhere to the industry best practices, you know, giving everybody an opportunity to drink from the same tap, if you will. You know, we're doing something in Georgia that you might not be doing in Arizona, and Arizona is doing something that Oregon is doing better. Oregon is doing something better than North Carolina, because North Carolina hadn't heard about it yet, but North Carolina may be doing something that's obsolete to everybody else. So adhering to the best practices means, you know, creating a platform where everybody can communicate and get this information as real time as we possibly can, so we can all, for lack of a better phrase, be on the same sheet of music when it comes to, as an industry, the way we attack the interstate. We would represent every single operating agency in that regard, and also to advocate for the whole industry in its entirety. Of course, we all know that there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages that come with the profession that we chose, and likewise, there are a lot of advantages that we're not privy to because of the profession's recognition in some states. So as an organization, we feel that we could be a great platform for all agencies to use to speak out for them, to represent them, to kind of say, hey, this industry is here, it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get more dynamic as the years go by. So our mission statement is to promote a higher level of recognition of the vital role safety service patrols play, keeping our roadways safe, and to improve the standardization and professionalism of traffic incident management response operations across the nation. So in the past, justifying the existence of SSPs have been all the way across the board. You know, some states, it's the first thing that they cut out when they start trying to look for money. Other states complain about, not the whole state, but certain parts complain about maybe the amount of money it's costing to do it, but the public loves it. So we're past the stage of trying to justify why SSPs are necessary and needed in states. Those days are over. We are now a needed, vital entity in the public safety arena. If there's a city or a state that has an interstate system, chances are they either have us or are clamoring to get us. And right now, of the 50 states, 30 have an SSP program. So we need to start talking to each other regularly. Why? Because, you know, there's going to be more expansion. There's going to be more recognition to come. Again, if you're anything like us, you're trying your best to improve every single day because the interstate is improving. The motorists are improving or regressing, it depends. But the industry that we're working in is ever changing. So we have to improve. We have no choice. And so the national level, we want to naturally evolve to having, you know, quarterly webinars, quarterly meetings rather than having webinars. We want to maintain the security of the industry because it's not going anywhere. We want to make sure we be that link between the agencies to ensure that our value is recognized across the country. Again, this is a profession in its fledgling stages, and it's not going anywhere. We owe it to ourselves to link together and try to make our stamp, so to speak, in an arena where everybody else is 100 and 200 years old. So defining organizations are Maryland DOT, Minnesota DOT, Tennessee DOT, Georgia DOT, State of North Carolina Department of Transportation, Parsons, and Travelers Marketing. Of those states and organizations, myself, Scott Yinger from Maryland Department of Transportation, John McClellan from Minnesota, Jennifer Portnova from North Carolina, Lacey Word from Tennessee, Sam McClain from Travelers, and Christine Simonson from Parsons. These are your individuals who got together to build this thing. And so far, we've gotten positive feedback, but of course, like I said, we're at the beginning. We need more of you guys to come on board. Our goals are simple. Share agency best practices, you know, the things that we are doing, innovative things that we are seeing and putting into practice. We want to share them with one another. We want to create an industry training standard and a professional certification. That goes in line with some of the best practice sharing and some of the standardization of some of those things that we know we all share in terms of dealing with, like highway traffic control. Try to establish some kind of consistency across the programs, not necessarily, you know, like the next one says, change you individually because everybody's dealing with a different kind of terrain, but certainly we want to try to establish some kind of consistency across all of our programs beyond what our titles are. Try to advocate for reasonable compensation. That's a big deal because you're losing limbs, you're losing lives, and there's an unspoken, unseen element that's taking place out there that a lot of us don't talk about. Our men and women are seeing and being involved in a lot of heavyweight situations. So it's important that we advocate for appropriate and reasonable compensation for this type of industry that we're putting our lives on the line for. Also, to advocate for appropriate recognition within the responder arena, that goes without saying. There's a big reason why we can't take advantage of some of the benefits that other quote-unquote first responders take advantage of. This organization has made it a point to try to make that happen and get that unlocked, and identify some of those health, morale, and welfare options that are available when you are considered a first responder. So for us, it's a big deal, but without any kind of involvement from the other states, it'll be difficult. And what we need help. We need individuals, you guys out there, to come in and support us, help us out. Some of the places we need to help at is, in the organizational structure. If you may have ideas or experience in funding. Some of the questions we have, what kind of organization will it be? Will it be a 501c3 or 501c4? Maybe maybe you have some experience in that area. Membership, what kind of membership are we talking about? We know we're open to public and private agencies that do this kind of work, but what other kind of memberships are we talking about? Full-time support staff. Do you have the time to help out if this thing takes off and gets bigger? Outreach, do you have any experience in that regard? State and agency contacts is a big deal for us right now. So far, we're taking advantage of the platforms that we have in front of us, like NOCO and Safe Highways and Federal Highway and whatnot. But it'd be fantastic if we all start reaching out to each other and sharing contacts so we can start communicating. And speaking of communications, what about logos, brandings? They got brandy. Branding and logos. Maybe one of you guys or ladies are great at that. That's something that we're going to need. Of course, we've put out one newsletter. We're working on the second newsletter now. And by the way, if you haven't got the first newsletter, we're going to have my contact information here. You can shoot or reach out to me or Tom, and we'll shoot you one. But a web presence. We don't have a web presence yet. Maybe you have experience in that. Conferences, that's going to happen, and regular meetings. So, this is a big deal. This is a huge deal. This is an idea whose time has been passed, and I think right now is the perfect time, if any, to get the ball rolling. So what are we asking? We're asking that you reach out, join us, pick one of those areas and say you want to be a part of it. Help out if you can. If you have any expertise in those areas, great. Maybe you just want to sit back and get the newsletter, read about it, and see what it's all about. That's fine, too. All we want everybody to know is we exist now. We are here for the SSP operators. We want this thing to grow, and we want it to grow in a positive direction because we are 100% all about the men and women who are literally stepping out into traffic every day, putting their life on the line for the public. So there's my name and contact information up top. Of course, you have Tom Clark from Parsons up there as well. And that's Todd. And if you have any questions or concerns, even criticism, send them out to us. If you have any suggestions, send them out. But most of all, get involved, join up. We're not going to not do it if you don't join, but it'll certainly be an easier role to hold if you do. But again, I want to appreciate everybody for giving me the opportunity to put this out here. I think it's very, very important. I hope you all do too. And if you want that newsletter, Thomas Clark, myself, there are the emails. I think Liz or Sam are going to make them available for you. And if you want to join, same thing, use the email, reach out, let us know how you want to get in.
Thank you, Jason, for covering that. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Jason? Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Important topic. Yeah, before we get into our debris removal with Todd, just to an important topic, so I did want to open it up here for anybody that has any overall questions about what we're trying to start and what the goals are. I'll give one example of, Jason, you talked about consistency across programs yet allowing for individuality. And
right.
One of the discussions we had is what are we going to name this association? And emergency response was part of it, and we eventually landed on safety service patrols as sort of the unifying the descriptor of what we all are. That doesn't mean we're suggesting you replace a hero or a first or an ASAP or, all the individual names. Exactly. So that's just an example of we're going to unify it by giving it one overall name, but still can be individually how you're going to run your programs is going to be up to you.
Absolutely. And the conversation began with, we use law enforcement as an example. Law enforcement is the name of the career field, but, you have sheriff's deputies, you have rangers, you have mounted police officers, you have SWAT, you have all these different kinds of groups or titles or whatnot within that one umbrella organization. It's law enforcement, What are we? How do we umbrella ourselves for the different individual ways that the states choose to attack their terrain? So, that's small potatoes compared to some of the bigger items and issues that we could use to kind of connect with one another to help build this. So, that is one of the many things that we would like input from the other states to be able to help us kind of find our way through this. Again, it's a massive undertaking. We understand that. We understand that we're attempting to represent a very, very proud group of individuals who do a very, very unforgiving and inherently dangerous line of work, but it's put together by individuals who share the same passion, and you will be putting yourself among people that are thinking and feeling just like you do about this. So it'll be in good hands, particularly if you put your hands in it. It's just that we need support, and we need everybody to hop in.
All right, very good. Thank you again, Jason. Todd, I'm going to turn it over to you now. You've got an hour and about 15 minutes or so to do all we can to learn about debris removal. So, Todd, hopefully you're with us.
Yep, I am here. So thanks, Sam and Jason.
And unmuted.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're here to talk this afternoon about debris removal, one of the most dangerous jobs for our safety service patrols and our maintenance workers out there on the roadways. If you have to get out of your vehicle to go get debris in center lane of a 3-lane roadway, it's like playing Frogger out there. So we're trying to come up with solutions and see some technologies and techniques that other states may use that we may be able to incorporate into our programs as well to try to keep our employees safe. Number one thing, employee safety. So we have a number of great speakers here today, so I want to introduce them and get moving with this so that we can allow them as much time as possible. So our first speaker is Timothy ETIQUETTE. Tim works as the Chief Regional Operations for Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration for the Office of Chart and ITS Development. He started his career in 2001 in the Frederick Maintenance Shop, and he's worked his way up since then. He's been an emergency response technician with Chart on the nation's capital region. And if you've ever been on those roadways around the Capital Beltway, it's a crazy, crazy road out there. So I'm glad that we have the Chart employees out there keeping us safe. In August of 2018, Tim was promoted to his current role as Chief of Regional Operations. Tim directs and coordinates all activities of the administration program, establishes overall policies and procedures for the program, oversees implementation, and establishes program goals, standards, and controls to meet the program objectives. He also manages the personnel and financial resources for the program and develops short and long-term plans. So much like many of us, he does it all. He does quite a bit, so including overseeing the development of the staff, training for the program staff. So Tim, take it away.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay,
ahead,
I think
Tim,
I'm
we
unmuted
did hear
now.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, you are. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to talk about some battery-powered equipment that we're trying out. One of the hurdles we've run into over the past few years, most of our guys have gas-powered chainsaws, blowers, and cut saws, metal cut saws. And a lot of times some of them can be used very few and far between, and then we have a problem with stale gas, or when they go to get them, if it's really cold out, we have a problem with them getting them started, and it can slow up the process of getting the debris out of the roadway. So most of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, the metal cut saw, the chainsaw, and the blower, are mainly for after storm events for debris cleanup or after crash debris cleanup. So the first slide is the battery-powered cut saw. The only downfall we've seen so far of this is it's only a 9-inch blade. So instead of being able to take a 12 or 14-inch saw to be able to cut through a guardrail in one pass, you have to get it from both sides. But we have, right now we have the abrasive blades, unlike the one pictured. We have ordered the metal blades with the diamond tips, so we're going to try them out hopefully with the non-abrasive and the blade staying more the 9-inch instead of reducing in size as you use it. We'll have more success cutting the guardrail. I have not been able to test this personally yet, so I'm unaware of the actual run time, but a couple of the private industry towers have these saws, and so far for cutting pieces off of equipment to be able to recover, they've had very good success with them. I know the cost, I'm not sure if they vary for each state or department agency, but I know our cost, I believe, was around $320, and that's the tool only, not including the battery and charger and stuff like that. So the vehicles we have equipped so far, they've been issued the 3 pieces of equipment, which is the cut saw, the chainsaw, and the blower, along with 2 batteries and a rapid battery charger. And then we've also put inverters in their trucks so they can charge the batteries as they need. The rapid charger will fully charge a battery within 45 to 60 minutes. So moving on to the next slide, the chainsaw, I was able to personally test the blower and the chainsaw. The blower, I tested on 1 battery just to see what kind of longevity we could actually get out of it. So I would use the blower for about 20 continuous minutes, and it only has, I mean, it's a variable speed but depending on how far you pull the trigger, but I had it fully activated for 20 continuous minutes, and then I put that same battery into a chainsaw, and I found a 12-inch or 1-foot diameter pine log, and I was able to make 32 cuts before the battery wouldn't turn the chain anymore. So, I mean, we got very good use out of it, and most of the time if a tree comes down in the roadway, it's a little bit smaller than 1 foot continuous, plus we're able to make enough cuts to reduce it in size to get it at least off the roadway. So it's very successful, especially, like I said, the cold days, sometimes when the gas-powered equipment doesn't want to run or doesn't want to start, we've had very good success. Just using the chain or the saw itself, I had just a tree come down, and again, I wasn't counting the cuts. I was just the time it took to get it cut up, but I have no doubt that it would last for at least the 45 minutes needed to be able to make the cuts. And again, with the rapid chargers, you could always have a battery on standby ready to go. And the only thing on the blower, I did notice it's supposed to run up to 45 to 60 continuous minutes and not the 24. So, and using it on the scene, we did test it. We had a overturned dump truck hauling stone, and this blower was capable for blowing the stone out of the roadway. So, other than that, I guess I will take any questions about the equipment from anyone that may have them for right now.
Tim, this is Sam. One of the things I was impressed with is this interchangeable battery, right? So you got 1 battery. Well, you guys have 2, right? You're keeping 1 charged in the truck all the time, and whatever tool you need, you just plop it onto that tool, correct?
Correct. All the tools use the same battery.
And you're charging that from the vehicle. How?
Yes, we put, actually, the couple of trucks that have the equipment, we put 1,000-watt inverters in them. This battery charger actually uses about 540 watts, but we also have cordless impacts that we charge the batteries up on too. So we found the 1,000-watt inverters will run both of those chargers at the same time.
Tim, this is Todd Lease, did you mention what the cost is for these compared to your traditional equipment that you would have on?
So I know the blowers, typically we would get the backpack style blowers, which are usually, I'd say, between 300 and 500, depending on the brand you get. The chainsaws are usually between 200 and 300, and the cut saws typically are, I'm going to say, between 500 and 700. And then again, the cost of the gas, all the equipment that are still gas, we've been buying the pre-mix that has the oil and the gas stabilizer already in it, which is roughly about $20 a gallon. So we're saving the cost of that. Right now, with the sets we got, we were able to get all 3 pieces of equipment, 2 batteries, and the charger for roughly $1,200 total.
That's great. I saw this down in Washington, D.C. doing a conference down there, and was very impressed with this. So I think it is good. Anybody else have any questions for Tim?
Todd, we have two questions
some.
for Steph.
Okay.
I don't know if Michael or John want to speak, they can too.
I could read Michael's question here for you. What size stone, ABC, lightweight, aggregate, or what, again, for that you were able to move there, Tim, if you were able to answer that?
Honestly, I'm not sure how it's sized. I'm going to say the stone was probably 1 to 2 inch in diameter. So, I mean, it was pretty large stone. And, okay. I mean, looking at the question here, the blowers, I would say for bigger stuff, the manual sweeping still works better. And work when we were at ITS America, the New Jersey DOT guys have the power brooms. I think for larger material, the power brooms are very nice or manual sweeping, but this is good enough to, I mean, it will at least move the stone out of the roadway, or if you end up with wet leaves or sand, glass, and like I said, it will move the stone, but I mean, sweeping can also do a better job at times. For John's question, blowers are definitely, on a typical crash scene, a blower can clean up a scene 10 times faster than a manual push broom.
Okay, thanks. Wayne from NJDOT, are you on, can you put the power broom? I don't know if he's able to be on.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to unmute him, Nilo, or not. In the meantime, John, are you unmuted? Can you ask your question? John McClellan?
I think that was answered, Sam.
Okay.
You have another question being typed in here, so see if Wayne's also typing in, so. Okay, Justin from Oregon says that they use blowers for everything. They found that they are very efficient and quickly deployed. Is that the point where a fire department is purchasing them as well? They definitely seem to be. Justin, are you able to, can you tell us if they're are they the backpack mounted blowers, or what kind of blowers are you using there?
We currently use, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we have a variety. We have, there's a variation that STIHL makes that has a attachable pole saw with a little sweeper or blower. So we have those variations. We have the small gas-powered ones, and then we have some folks that carry backpack blowers. We haven't ventured into the battery-powered ones yet, but after this, I think that might be something I might throw out there as a pilot. But we do, pretty much every truck carries that battery-powered impacts, and we rarely utilize brooms anymore.
Okay, good. And
This
Wayne
is Tim again. I was going to answer Wayne's question. So
Okay.
as of now, we have not fully made the decision to replace our gas-powered stuff. We're still in the trial process. But if everything keeps going the way we think it is, we probably will be. We're not necessarily replacing, but buying battery-powered equipment from this point forward.
Justin from Oregon again. We have seen some of our maintenance coordinators starting to carry battery-powered tools in their smaller trucks. Of course, our incident response trucks have a lot more space versus we have some Chevy Colorados and F-150s running around. And they've been carrying battery-powered chainsaws for the last couple of years, and they swear by them. They said that the run time and the ability to do a down tree is working a lot better than lugging around a heavy gas-powered chainsaw.
Yep. I say our maintenance facility shops here in Maryland are, after seeing some of our equipment we've been trying, they're going to start trying it out as well.
Okay, one more question. Michael's typing in here, and then we'll get his question, then we'll move on from here. Michael writes, is Tim, I don't know if you see this, is staff wearing earplugs with the blowers and saws?
Honestly, no. The chainsaw and the blower, other than the electric motor running, you can't hear anything else. And honestly, the only need to possibly wear hearing protection with a cutoff saw would be the high pitch frequency of the metal cutting itself. But as far as the blower and chainsaw, it does not have any kind of loud noises at all. It just sounds like a fan running.
Okay, good. Justin from Oregon, your experience with using the blowers, are you using any kind of ear protection?
With our gas-powered ones, our staff is supposed to be wearing earplugs, and I can't vouch for every one of them in the field. But with the battery-powered ones, same answer. We found that it's not super loud unless you're cutting something that creates its own noise. But the actual battery-powered tools themselves are very, very quiet.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you, Tim, for some great information. I think it gives everybody a lot to think about moving on. So next up, we're going to go back to Sam. Sam's going to present on the GATOR getter tool. Take it away, Sam.
Thank you, Todd. There's going to be a video to start this off. If it's slow on your screen, we apologize. I guess it depends on your connection, if you will, for speed. But we're also going to provide a link if you want to see this. It's out there on YouTube and such. So it's called the GATOR getter. And let's see how this video runs. I'm not hearing any volume. I thought there was on this, but maybe
GATOR
not.
getter is a road debris removal
There he
tool
is.
that keeps our workers from exposure of actually stepping into traffic. GATOR getter, they maintain the highway speed. It has a drum on it. The lip will actually scoop the debris up at highway speed. It goes around the drum and captures inside a catch basket inside the drum. Once they get a couple of pickups, they will pull to the safe location, drop the GATOR getter to the ground, pull a lever, and it will dump the debris out where they can handle it and put it in the truck in a safe manner. And that way we do not have brake lights slowing traffic down and then get the congestion problems where we have to pull to the side of the road. So we take all these other factors out of the equation, and then we have a safer operation. If we lessen the exposure of the employee, then we lessen the chance that they're going to get tagged by motorists coming through that work zone.
So I saw that video. I did speak with North Carolina about their experience. I talked to the inventor of the GATOR getter, and I think one other state that was using it. So I decided just to kind of cover it myself here to try to speed things along and give you the impressions of what I've learned about it. So as you saw, the most impressive part is it scoops up debris at fast speed. It will also work at slower speeds unless it's something really large. So if you are in a traffic sort of situation, it still can work, but it prefers and I think performs better at the higher speeds. And as they said in the video, there's sort of a tray or inside of here that will throw things and sort of hold it up onto the tray. So that's how it works. The inventor tells me it'll pick up dead deer, and certainly, as you saw, tire treads, etc. So here you see it's about to pick up a trash bag. So pretty versatile in that way. This actually started in 2008, so it's been around for 10 years. And now they have 3 different sizes, 36 inches to 48 inches, the one that probably works best for a pickup type truck like most of the SSPs are. And there's also a 60-inch. Obviously, the benefits, I think, to the people on this call, you get it. You don't have to shut down the road. You don't have any traffic slowdowns, and obviously safer for your folks if this thing can do what it says it can do. What I really found is, and they're showing it here, I think, on a pickup, but seems like it's really intended and maybe is best used with a much larger, heavier vehicle, a snow plow type of vehicle. My understanding is many of those already have mounting hardware that this can then be retrofitted to. There's kits that'll allow this to fit, or this will fit onto the hardware that I guess you already have on a snow plow. But obviously, I think most of the people on this call are operating some form of pickup truck, so it does work on the 3/4 or 1-ton pickup. I think that middle size is probably the best for that. They say it's a very quick, easy on-off. That did not seem to be a problem. One of the concerns was when this thing's not in use, it raises up about a foot. So you've got that large barrel, and then you pick it up a foot. Now you've got some visibility problems with the driver. So if you do want to get involved in this, make sure you're talking about what seat height the vehicle you want to put it on, what the seat height will be in the driver's vision and so forth. That's, I think, a key question to ask before you decide if you want to go with this or what size to get. Cost $17,500 or up, and then there's the mounting. So if you already have mounting on like a vehicle like this or snowplow, if not, there's several different, I guess, kits that you can purchase separately. So I know North Carolina DOT has tested it, Missouri, I believe Ohio as well. The inventor is from Ohio, and I believe the Ohio DOT used it or tried it. And that's where you can call for more information if you really want one, that top part, that phone number preferably. I'm going to give you now a little bit of what I heard from my conversations. I guess I have a little bit of concern about it as far as its usability for what we do on the people on this call. It seems like it just seems to work better on a larger truck, a dump truck sort of thing. I know the one state that I talked to had bought several of them and ended up dedicating a truck just for this purpose and a dedicated driver because they had a little trouble with it on the pickup trucks as far as usability. And so on those, they tested it for 1 year, by the way, and then compared the data with what they were doing with their SSP as far as debris pickup. And I think part of the problem was you got one truck that's not necessarily where the debris is. So by the time that truck would get rerouted to where they needed it, the SSP patrol maybe had already cleared the debris. So that was part of the problem. Obviously, if you had it on a lot of vehicles, that might be less of an issue. But again, it didn't seem to work as well on the pickup trucks. They also found in that year that the thing broke down twice. They think it was a design flaw. And I don't know if that's been fixed or changed or not. The inventor that I spoke to really didn't speak to, we had some troubles when we started and we fixed it. I really didn't get that from him. But I know that the state ended up spraying the drum with the WD-40 to help, I think, things throw up in there a little easier. So, and I think it also benefits from having a nice smooth road like we saw in the video there. So there was certainly, I guess, in my discussion, some concerns with it. And I wanted to make you all aware of it. If something maybe you've heard about this Gator Getter, like I said, it's been around for 10 years. But there's a couple of states that tried it. So if anybody is looking at it, I would probably advise you to reach out either through us or if you know somebody at North Carolina DOT or Missouri DOT, and I think Ohio DOT as well. And I know we have some of those folks on the call here. So if anybody wants to open up speak up about it, if you've tested it, if Missouri or North Carolina or if Ohio's with us, or anyone else, if you've had experience with this. Does anybody on the call want to give an opinion about the Gator Getter?
Am I unmuted? This is Owen from MoDOT.
That works, Owen. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had one years ago and have used it around. Same experience you had, and I saw some comments on there too about the debris removal for the SSPs. It eliminates your ability to use the push bumper on the Safety Service Patrol. I never implemented it on any of our emergency response or Safety Service Patrol trucks, but in the maintenance arena we did have it and had to have a dedicated truck to it. And the operators tend to have to slow down. You're getting ready to move something off the roadway, and they tend to slow down. And as you mentioned, you do have to go at a higher rate of speed. So that's not a tool that we implemented widely throughout the area, and a lot of the areas have kind of discontinued them and kind of let them sit in the fence rows and grow some grass around them, to the best of my knowledge at this time.
Thank you, Owen. That's somewhat of my concern too. And when I was asked the operator about some of the issues, or I heard about it, the inventor, sorry, his basic answer has to be a skilled driver. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing. So that raised a little flag for me, which is a bit why I'm covering it here rather than bringing him on. But I wanted to at least let you know this is out there. You maybe you've heard about it or looking into it. It does seem like there's certain uses where it would make great sense. I think there's a tunnel that's using it, which to me, I get it, right? Park a truck right next to it and run it through either every hour or when something happens. That sort of defined use seems to make great sense to me. I just think it's tricky to see it working well for the SSP industry. So that's my take on that, unless anybody has any other comments. Before I give it up here, I see in the notes the National Center is telling us that if you want to make a comment, just press *# to unmute yourself. So thanks for those who have spoken up. Corey, one last thought here. They did demo the GATOR getter, and the debris was launched in the air. That's concerning. Thank you, Corey, for your experience on it there. So, this is a best practice sharing call, but sometimes we also have to share things that maybe some have tried and it just didn't work well for our industry. So save the rest of the country from maybe having to go through that, or at least giving you some people to talk to if you're looking at it. So Todd, that's about all I have on that topic.
Okay, Sam. Next up, we're going to hear from Owen, and you said your last name. I believe it's Hassan, but I'm probably wrong here. Owen has worked for the Missouri Department of Transportation for over 30 years and currently serves as the St. Louis District's Incident Management Coordinator. He's a native of St. Louis, growing up south of St. Louis City. 2011, Owen has served as the MDOT Superintendent for numerous years. He took the position of the District Incident Management Coordinator. This appointment included the responsibilities for St. Louis's emergency response, roadway operations, the Safety Service Patrols, the Emergency Operations Center Coordination, Traffic Incident Management Coordination, Outreach and Training. He responds and coordinates all type of emergencies that affect transportation in the St. Louis region. His emergency response team typically responds to 3,000 to 4,000 roadway incidents a month in the St. Louis region. Owen has received a number of prestigious awards and recognitions in his career, including the Governor's Award, regional awards, and district recognitions. He serves on numerous committees. Thank Owen for taking the time, and I'm very excited to hear about your what you're using in St. Louis and in Missouri.
Good afternoon. So we have a same concerns everyone else does about debris removal, and one of the three things is everyone knows about the NUG is the safe, quick clearance. In an effort to get our people off the ground, the boots off the ground, and keep them in the vehicles as much as we can out there, especially for the debris removal, we started looking at different opportunities in Missouri. Kansas City started looking at one, and that's called the JAWS system, and concurrently we were looking at developing something in the St. Louis region. And I have that on the slide there. You can see we're kind of separated across by the entire state over there. So we would talk occasionally, but each one, as you all know, you have different dynamics in your urban metropolitan areas, and different solutions help out. So while Kansas City was working on theirs, we were working on ours in St. Louis, both with the same common objective, to get people off the ground, get the boots off the ground and get the debris out of the road as quick as possible. So one of the big things that we have to deal with, as everyone does, the tractor trailers. We have multi-highways in the St. Louis and Kansas City area, up to 6 lanes across in one direction in some locations. We do use, for debris removal, we currently use a lot of the technology that we currently have on hand here in St. Louis and Kansas City and across a lot of the urban areas, I think in the U.S. with the TMCs. We'll bring it up on camera. If we get a report in, we'll look it up on camera. We'll identify it, call the operator ahead of time, and try to tell them what lane it is. It's in lane 2 of 6. It's in lane 4 of whatever. To give the operator a heads up. We'll light up our DMS boards to give people advance warning to hopefully alert them, and then our operators would roll up onto the scene. They would put up their arrow board or message boards. We have a combination in the Missouri area of the arrow boards themselves, where we could just put up a straight arrow, or the arrow message boards, the vehicle-mounted dynamic message signs, where we can put up a stopped vehicle and an arrow or whatever message we want to. So the operators will do it well in advance and slow the traffic down, then stop the vehicle, jump out, same process everyone else typically does to go out and remove the debris. In St. Louis, just this year, since January 1st, this is all data pulled from our ATMS, from our database. We've pulled over 1,600, did over 1,600 debris pulls out of the roadway on the road. So that's the whole purpose of it, getting people off the ground. In Kansas City, they did in this is a 1-year time frame. They had 1,575 debris instant removals, and they used their JAWS system, and we'll see a video on that in a minute, to remove about 2/3 of that debris in the roadway. And we'll play a little video here, and I'll go into some more detail. And I think, is this Liz? Are you going to be the one to be able to activate this for me?
I sure am. Here we go. That video kind of demonstrates the whole intention of the debris removal and the JAWS system. In the Kansas City area, they did lose a operator, Julie, while grabbing debris on the roadway. It's a good demonstration of the types of debris that the JAWS system will remove, and they've used for it. This gets into the some of the details of JAWS. I do apologize that Marcus Slaughter, my counterpart in the Kansas City area, he was unable to attend, and he can speak in a little bit more detail on the JAWS unit. I am fairly familiar with it, as we've compared notes across the state on the different devices we've been using for debris removal. And it has a drop down, so it fits underneath the push bumper on theirs, and we have a push bumpers that kind of surround the very front of it, the front and the sides of them. We line them with heavy rubber plating. Kansas City uses a little bit different design than we do in the St. Louis area, but they both serve the same purposes. We can push anything from the small vehicles to tractor trailers. Sometimes on tractor trailers we'll have a vehicle behind it pushing and another vehicle behind it pulling. But in any case, the JAWS unit nor the other one that we have in St. Louis, neither one of those systems interfere with the ability to push vehicles out of the roadway, or our push bumpers or our lighting systems or sirens or anything like that. The JAWS unit that's shown on the screen right there deploys from underneath the bumper. It lowers down on a couple of cables. It sets down. It does have actuators and that pull it up. And as you can see, it grabs the debris. You slide up underneath the debris. You can slide into it, and then they can hit a joystick in the cab and actually lift it up and pull it up off the groundway and remove it at a little bit higher roadway speed on it. The switch inside the cab indicates when the device is up or down, so you know if your device is if it's hanging down. It is controlled with a joystick inside the truck, similar to the snow plows here in Missouri. A lot of our guys, when we get the snow hit with a snowstorm, some of our safety service patrol operators end up in maintenance trucks and using the same joystick type of control for the plows that are inside the regular maintenance plow trucks. Does have a forward-facing camera. That's different than the one we have in St. Louis, and I'll speak on that for a minute. So when you're driving up on it, you have your hand on the steering wheel, you have your hand on the joystick. You can actually see a display on the screen in front of you showing you where the debris is, so you can line up. With it. The camera itself is mounted into the bumper, and it's kind of protected, so when you're pushing, it doesn't mess with it if you have to push vehicles with it and other debris flying up there. I think they've had a little bit of ice and snow build up around it at times and might have had to clean it up once or twice when that happens, but the majority of the time I think it's been working well for them. The operator can see it in the camera, line up with the debris, and then go ahead and scoop it up or push it if it's too large an object to scoop up. I think they can just grab it like that Christmas tree you saw earlier. They can get underneath it and push it underway. It floats. It has a floating system, so you really don't have a bunch of down pressure. So when you hit maybe an expansion joint or uneven pavement or something that can bounce, it can float on up to them. I think they may have had a couple of opportunities where you're trying to get a gator or trying to get a tire tread, I should say, one of those really flat pieces off the road that it might have popped up over, and they might have had to do a second swipe at it on that particular device. The St. Louis one is a different design. It's very similar to the underbody plows that you may see, but the underbody plows, if you're familiar with the maintenance units on the big dump trucks, those are typically midships, so you have a bunch of down pressure. You use a joystick on those, you lower them down, and it goes down in the middle of the truck, and you can do you can scrape ice and things like that. This is not the same design as those, and it does not have that much down pressure on it. It has two electric actuator arms that push it down, operated from a joystick inside the truck, and joysticks, and we have 4 of them in the St. Louis area. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention earlier. Kansas City currently has the one running in their area, and they're trying to implement. They are implementing more of them, but currently they're running one. We're running 4 of these in the St. Louis area, and either joystick or a toggle switch to lower it down. No cameras installed on these, and it also has a light indicator with a micro switch that lets us know if the device is lowered down and going into the up position. It's lighter than an underbody plow, and there's really not a plow blade on it. While it can scrape some snow and ice, some snow around and things like that, it's really a heavy rubber, thick rubber blade, about 3/4 of an inch thick, with some steel backing at the top that we can rebolt onto it as it wears away because you have the uneven pavements. Let's see. We've deployed it to relocate the basic debris and anything, the same stuff all the other states have to deal with, whether it's
dead animals. We have used it for different rock spills. It really helps out for the rock spills. So as we heard before about the blowers and things like that, you can push the rock spills to the side of the road and then get out there with the blowers and blow the dust if you have a bunch of minus rock that's been spilled down or something. It helps with a quick removal of that. Just the other day, we did break an actuator arm. The operators got a little enthusiastic with it. There was a bunch of rolled steel on the ground, and it was some thick, very thick, heavy steel cold rolled product, and they tried to move that, and it was just too big and too heavy and bulky. But the operator was very robust with it. I'm sure I'm not the only one with exuberant operators, and that kind of broke one of the actuators on that one, and that's being repaired at this time. It does eliminate the need for the operators to be outside of the truck. That's where we've had our operators struck before, our trucks getting struck before, even though we've put in place the mitigating purposes of lighting up our DMS boards, telling our operators where to go into. Sometimes we'll do to slow traffic down in those heavy congested and high speed areas. They'll kind of do that serpentine move between traffic with their lights and siren and arrow board on to try to get traffic to slow down. Much safer, though, than the law enforcement. We do the majority of the calls in the urban areas for debris removal go to us. We do have law enforcement that goes out and grabs it, but those guys usually just kind of scream up onto it, stop, jump out to the best of their ability, and sling it across the highway either to the center median wall or over to the shoulder, and then boogie on out of there. This does a much better job of relocating to a safer position where we can get out there and actually either throw it into the back of the truck, depending on what the debris is, and getting it out of harm's way for traffic or other errant vehicles that might be using the shoulder. And it has reduced our exposure time quite a bit. We've also used it for drains. We had a lot of rain this spring, and the debris goes into the drainage. Typically the center drains, sometimes on the side drains. The drains will get clogged up. We'll have cars hydroplaning on it. Operators would put on their wader boots and grab the pitchforks out there and try to clean out the center drains to get things to go. With this, they can drop that blade down, drive through there, and kind of scrape the top of that blade off. Even more pronounced when in the springtime, when a lot of the landscapers in the urban area will go out to some of the diamond areas and try to put their mulch in there. The rain will push that mulch down into those to the drainage basin and cover those up, and this thing kind of scrapes all that stuff out pretty quickly. Expedites the removal and reduces the impact, travel impact. So those are the two that we're doing in the Missouri area. The ones Kansas City on their JAWS system developed it in-house, and we're working on it. Our idea in the St. Louis area came from some of our operators trying to reduce their exposure, and we had the idea, and we went to a fabrication place a little bit north of the St. Louis metropolitan area, and went to those fabricators, told them our idea, and they've been working with the fabrication process of mounting them to the trucks. Typically, we're using three-quarter ton pickup trucks. We do have a couple of different ones. We have Chevys and a few Fords, and just due to the differences in the vehicles, those fabricators will mount it, just fit it to what type of style and truck body that we might have. Cost on those are about $3,000. I think JAWS, they have a sheet out on it that says it costs about $2,900. I think ours was that was $2,900 in parts or material for the JAWS. The St. Louis one is about $2,900 for parts and labor, everything from paying the fabrication place and just having the parts on there. Not a ton of parts to do it, but just the implementation of getting it all wired up in the actuator arms and the switches and micro switches and all that. So that kind of covers most of the stuff I have on the two different systems that we're using in the Missouri area. Any questions on that?
Oh, and there is a question from Dom in the chat box about the camera in the front. That's just for seeing the debris is the purpose of the camera there.
That's correct. Yes, I see that now. Yes, that is just for the purpose of seeing the debris and lining it up. The JAWS system is a little bit narrower than the one we're using in St. Louis. The one we use in St. Louis actually it covers in front of the tires too, so if we have nails spilled, when we deploy that, the tires will hopefully not go over the nails. We can be able to push all of that stuff over to the side without catching any flats on it. But currently we're not using a camera. We're in the process with our SSP installing. We have cameras installed, but getting that video feed into the cab so we can see it a little bit better, flip it over to that screen so we can actually see what we're approaching, will probably help us line up a little bit more. But the feedback so far, and we've had it implemented for a little over a year now, feedback we've had so far has been really well received from the operators that have it. And let's see, can you send out the vendor? Yes, I can send out the vendor contact information. I'll blast that into the typing here in just a second. It's a Musterman Fabrication is the name of it, the name of the place that we're using. But I would imagine there's different fabrication locations in each state that might be able to do something similar for you all. What size is JAWS, the clearance area for the ground under the push bumper? How big of debris can JAWS? JAWS can handle quite a bit. I mean, if it doesn't get picked up inside the bucket itself of JAWS, they can get up to it and actually push it. Then it's acting similar to the St. Louis one. They can push the debris to the side if it's a tree, the limb like you saw earlier. But other pieces such as tire debris or maybe a muffler can be picked up. I believe that one is about 3 feet wide. I don't have the exact specs, and I apologize because Marcus isn't here for that one. But I believe it's about 3 feet wide, and as I mentioned, that gets underneath it, scoops it up, and traps it basically into that hollowed-out bumper below, and then they can drop it down if it's picked up. If it's not, you just hit it at a slow rate of speed and push it over to the shoulder of the road, kind of like we saw in the video they did with the tree, and relocate it to a safe location. The cost does not include the push bumper. The cost is on the St. Louis one. The cost does not include the push bumper. On the JAWS unit, I believe it does because it's a hollowed-out bumper on that one. But the one in St. Louis, it does not include the push bumper. And we're currently looking at a different new style of push bumpers on our units. We're trying to lighten things up. I imagine we're very similar to a lot of the other DOTs in the nation. That we've come a long way with tools and equipment through the years that we've been doing this, and we're starting to hit close to gross vehicle weight on a lot of our equipment. So we're trying to lighten things up, whether you're using aluminum bumpers or trying to hollow out some of the steel on it, and we're even looking at some maybe fiberglass unibodies to put onto the back of them. The problem with the fiberglass is if it breaks, you have to replace the whole thing. You guys know the whole thing on all that stuff. Any problems with dumping the trapping device? I don't think they've had any problems dumping the trapping device because it's on a cable system. If something's got caught in there, I think you can get in there and wedge it down and pop it out, pop out the debris. I haven't heard too much about the animals. I was curious about the animal stuff. I need to talk to Marcus and get more information on the animals. I imagine, as you guys probably can, if you hit an animal at a high rate of speed and it goes into that darn thing, you probably got a bit of a mess. Same with the debris pusher we have with the rubber piece, but you're usually hitting that at a little bit slower speed, so it kind of scrapes it off and then pushes it over to the side of the road. I think my guys are typically calling maintenance after that. I don't know what your guys are doing, but my guys, I think, are typically calling maintenance and saying, hey, you got a dead animal out here, come grab it. Do you have parts list that you can share? I don't have a parts list, but I'll have Marcus contact Liz and them to try to get that information out there to you so that they can get that to you for the GATOR getter. For the parts list, I'll see if I can find something, or if you contact Musterman Fab that I put in the application. They do know that I was talking on this, so if you guys call up Musterman Fabrication, they can probably give you a whole parts list of everything that they've used on there, including the thickness of the rubber, the kind of actuator arms they're using. So they have all the parts and pieces and the whole process for it through Musterman Fabrication, the notice I put out there. Any more questions popping up? I don't see anybody else typing. I think that does it for me.
Okay, Owen, thank you very much. Another great presentation. Next up is Liz LaBelle. Liz is going to talk about her trip to Western Australia to see the another debris removal tool.
Thanks, Todd. I wish I got to make the trip to Western Australia. I was going to bring the whole steering committee with me and we could host this call from Australia, but unfortunately that did not happen. Maybe next time. But I did learn of the Western Australia Patrol actually from Jason Josie on one of our steering committee calls. Jason had said that they had a unique debris removal tool that we should take a look at. I did get in touch with Western Australia. They have a patrol along their main road system there. It's an incident response service, very similar to the ones that you all operate and work on. I actually have a video here that I'll play for you just to introduce their patrol, give you a little feel for what's happening in Western Australia, and then we'll dive a little bit into their debris removal tool. They're using a road rake, and I'm not sure if anyone on this call is familiar with that. If you are, please do send a chat, and we'll open up the conversation to you following this presentation. But you'll see it for a little bit on this video, and then I do have a follow-up video that we can play as well. We'll start with this one here, though.
We've got some new toys. But they are serious toys because they exist to ensure you get to where you are going on time and safely. Normally, we operate Monday to Friday, but demand is constantly growing, so we're expanding our service. Our incident response vehicles are small and compact, particularly good for getting around the city. Our next generation vehicle is the first of its kind in Australia and keeps our people safer in high-speed environments while they work on getting you moving again. Our new road rake gets debris and litter off the road quickly, making sure you spend less time in unexpected traffic queues. And because we know you don't only travel on weekdays, we're now using our new toys on weekends and covering more roads. So, if you see us working to clear up an incident, please remember to slow down
to improve traffic flow. For more information, see our
to keep us all safe. This is one of many.
So you can see there the road rake was shown briefly. We'll dive into a little bit deeper, but I did connect with the contact who operates the patrol there, and this is just some of the detail that he provided about the road rake. It's essentially a trailer with a brush system on the back end, and it pushes the material onto a conveyor, which then lifts the debris into a bin for disposal, and I have a graphic that I'll show you in a minute there too. It picks up items while in motion, so again, similar to what Owen was talking about with the JAWS tool. It keeps the patrol operators safer because they don't actually have to get out of the vehicle. They can just drive through and pick up the materials. I was surprised to see that it could carry a mattress or ladders because it does seem like a smaller device, but it picks it up. Nonetheless, he said they use it. It operates on the freeway network. They don't have to close any lanes, which of course is helpful because it doesn't cause as many delays or safety issues. And I'll just go ahead and share the second video with you here. This is from the actual manufacturer that I found, Barber. They had a video on their website that goes into a little bit more detail on how the device works. There you can see how it works. And Corey, I see that New Jersey Turnpike uses this, so if I can, I might call on you at the end here to see if you can comment a little bit on how it works. What I found on the Barber website is that there are two different models. There's a Model 200 and then Model 200T. The Model 200 is independently powered. It can lift up to 1,900 pounds of debris into the hopper before having to go and dump it. And then it pairs with any truck that weighs more than 1 ton and has a pintle hitch. The 200T is different because it's truck powered rather than independently powered. So it's powered by the rear remote hydraulic valves on the vehicle. And here, I thought this graphic was a little helpful to see what's going on underneath the metal there of the road rake. It's operated electronically just by one person who's sitting in the cab of the towing unit. It uses caster tires to follow the contours of the pavement. And then the gutter brushes, which you saw on each side of the contraption, pull the materials to the tines. And then those stainless steel tines that you can see on the graphic move along a conveyor belt. And that's what, as the tires and the brushes push everything into the center, those tines then pull at the debris and they move up the conveyor belt. The tines lift and elevate that unwanted debris into the hopper, which the hopper can then be raised and dumped into a dumpster. Here are some technical specifications to give you an idea. These specifications are the same for both the Model 200 and the Model 200T. So it just gives you an idea here. I don't actually have a price for how much each of them cost, but you can find more information at this link, the H. Barber Litter Collection. So with that, Corey, if you're willing and can unmute yourself, I'd love to hear a little bit about how New Jersey Turnpike has worked with the road rake, and I think that'd be beneficial, if you're willing. Not to put you on the spot, but if you hit *#, you should be able to unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, Corey.
Okay. I'm not going to proclaim to be an expert on this. I did work with New Jersey Turnpike a little bit. And I think I mentioned it in the chat box, but I think one of the challenges is that it would have to be pulled by a larger piece of equipment. You have to actually drive over the debris first, and the problem is it's not always attached to a piece of equipment when and where you need it.
I wondered about driving over the debris first. If there's a mattress in the road, I can't imagine. The truck would have to be quite large to be able to drive over it. It does help, at least with the concern of the previously voiced for some of the other tools, is that you could still use your push bumper because you'd have that front available. But yeah, driving over the debris seems like that could cause some hazards in itself.
Yes.
Thank you. So any questions from the audience? Todd, if you have any questions besides a trip to Australia. Any questions about the road rake tool? Or comments if anyone else
I think this audience needs to know how it does with the kangaroo removal. Is that something you asked about?
I did not, but I can follow up with the Western Australia contact and ask him, Sam.
May need to go look at that.
And Todd, I have to say you were right. New Jersey does use it. It's just the New Jersey Turnpike.
I knew Corey wouldn't lead me astray this morning. Okay, next up, our presenters are going to be a sort of a tag team here. We have Matt Frazier and Tom Mangan from Autobase. So Matt's bio: Matt is the Regional Vice President of Autobase. In his current role, Matt oversees multiple Florida DOT contracts and operations for road rangers, safety service patrols, and severe incident response vehicles throughout the state. Autobase serves 4 different FDOT districts: Central Florida Expressway, as well as the Florida Turnpike Enterprise. Matt leads the Florida team through contract starts, program implementation, sustainment of operations, and new business growth. Matt was a previous infantry officer in the United States Army, so thank you for your service. He's earned his commission through the United States Military Academy at West Point and operates multiple leadership positions in combat. Matt's a graduate of multiple U.S. Army schools, including Pathfinder, Jumpmaster, Airborne, Air Assault, and Ranger School. Also the recipient of the Combat Infantryman Badge, the Expert Infantry Badge, and the Bronze Star. He looks to leverage the leadership experience to enhance the safety of Florida roadways, building safer road ranger services and building partnerships for both public and private sectors in traffic incident management. And also with him is Tom Mannion. Tom serves as the Sphere Incident Management Vehicle Operations Manager for Auto Base. He's been with the program since August of 2011 and was promoted to Operations Manager in January 2018. Prior to joining the service, Tom was a sergeant with the Miami-Dade Police Department, where he supervised unified patrol and investigative teams, so thank you again for your service as well. He supervised, coordinated, and field training for new officers for over 5 years. In his role as the SIRV manager, Tom is committed to continually improving the level of service for his team on the Florida DOT District 4 and bringing the benefits of the program to other districts throughout Florida. He holds certifications in advanced maintenance of traffic, emergency vehicle operations, CPR, and incident management. So this presentation is going to be a little bit different. There's no formal PowerPoint or presentation, but Matt and Tom are going to describe their program, and then we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. So this is the time to wake up and get interactive with Matt and Tom after they finish their describing their program.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. And welcome, everyone, and good afternoon as well. So myself and Tom are coming from a company called Autobase. We currently partner with 8 different state DOTs and 4 separate authorities throughout the United States. We have experience in a ton of different areas, and in today's discussion, I want to hit on a few different things in regards to debris removal. But first, the lens in which we're looking at this problem is a little bit different, primarily because we're not talking about tools. We're talking about using the road rangers themselves or the serve operator as a tool to remove the debris. One thing that we come with and provide is kind of a unique perspective is with working with different DOTs in different areas. Everyone has kind of their own unique perspective and on how to solve the problem and how to address debris removal. One thing we acknowledge up front is debris removal. It's obviously in support of the national unified goal. It's extremely important. That's why we're having these conversations, and it's great to have this type of dialogue at this level. And I'm interested to hear some feedback from others, and I have taken some notes on some of the tools that we're seeing across the nation being used, and excited to explore that as well. Moving into this conversation with debris removal, we acknowledge that debris is very dynamic in nature in terms of small pieces of trash all the way through the fluidity of a gravel spill or a liquid spill on the roadway. All of them pertain to and are important for road rangers and safety service patrol operators to address as we support traffic flow and congestion in different areas. I'm speaking primarily with the perspective of Florida. We serve, there's 8 different operations here in Florida with around 90 safety service patrol operators in the entire state, which is what I oversee. And then just some quick statistics on debris that we're kind of seeing and how we're addressing it. But for instance, in a turnpike, which is a large, Florida Turnpike, it's a large operation of ours. Just in Q2 in 2019, we had saw 5,360 event calls with debris, which makes up around 17% of the entire event calls for the Florida Turnpike, and that's little under 300 miles. So it's a large item, and it's a large topic of discussion. And then also what we're going to talk to, and as I pass it off to Tom to discuss some of the tactics, we also take into consideration the type of roadways that we're dealing with, the volume of traffic, and ultimately the assets available to the different operations or the vendors as they approach this problem. And when we create our training plans, and I hope the most important part of this conversation is that everyone kind of looks at their own training plans and program, we talk primarily about risk mitigation. What can we do to keep our guys safe? And ultimately, and compared with that is the decreasing the time spent on the road to remove debris. So we'll talk a little bit of tactics that we use, whether it's using and parking on the outside shoulder lane to address something that's straddling it, the shoulder or the first lane, as well as using center lane debris removal, because parts of Florida, we have up to 6 lanes of traffic and heavy congestion during peak hours. And we'll talk about some of the ways that we're using that and hopefully give some techniques, tactics, and procedures that we're currently using and some pros and cons of those as we address debris removal. So at this time, I'll pass it off to Tom, who is the Severe Incident Response Vehicle Program Manager for the state of Florida, as well as his experience with the roadway and dealing with some different ways and techniques of dealing with debris removal. And again, this is from a perspective without using some of the tools we just saw previously, but purely from an organic asset view of the problem. So I'll pass it off to Tom.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having us part of this conference. In Florida, we don't have all the technology I'm seeing here today, and we deal with debris as safely as we can with different tactics. We are fortunate down here because we have ample assets. We have not just road rangers, but we have our team, which is the Severe Incident Response Vehicle team. We do everything from minor lane blockages to overturned tractor trailers, fuel spills, fires, all that. We also have a separate maintenance contract. So we have plenty of assets out here. Depending on where and what type of debris you have in the roadway, we'll handle it different ways and different manners. As Mr. Fraser said, if you have a small piece of debris that's laying towards the outside of a shoulder or close enough to the shoulder where the operator can stop on the shoulder and safely reach out and grab it, then we're all for that. But other than that, we will block a lane to get the debris out of the roadway. The preferred method, if you have a blockage in the center lane somewhere, we'll actually use two vehicles. We'll block two lanes. You have one vehicle stop behind the debris. You have another vehicle stop in the adjacent lane. And the driver to the right will get out between the vehicles, grab the debris, and secure it in one or both of the vehicles, and then they depart together and get it out of there. Total process normally takes about 30 to 40 seconds, so traffic's not blocked too long. Each vehicle all have hour boards down here, and we'll direct the truck on the right will be directing the traffic to the right, and the one on the left directs them to the left. If it's not a simple matter of just grabbing it and departing, we will shut down the lanes, and we'll shut it down over to the shoulder and remove it as safely as we can. We've had incidents down here, everything from cement trucks rolling over and dumping wet cement all over the road to we had a garbage truck dumped a bunch of landscaping refuse all over the road. I had one where, as Mr. Fraser said earlier, glass. We had a truck carrying a bunch of mirrors, and it dropped broken glass all over the road for about 100 yards spread out over 3 lanes. And the way we handle those, we will block the lanes. I know people get annoyed, but we'll block the lanes, and to keep it as convenient as possible for everybody, we'll start at one end or both ends and work towards the middle, and we'll get all the debris out of one lane first, working towards the closest shoulder. Once we get that lane open, we'll go ahead and have one of the road rangers or one of the serve operators modify the MOT to open that lane while we work on the next lane, and so on until we have all lanes open. Our biggest concern is not just getting it done as rapidly and efficiently as possible, but the safety of all the guys out there. I really can't see risking one of our operators to get a piece of tire out of the roadway.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. And then, just to kind of highlight some further data that we're looking at, when we talk about the conglomerate removal of debris in the state of Florida, currently we're averaging less than 4 minutes per debris removal, and that comes from the data that's pulled from our ATMS systems here in the state. I do believe this conversation deserves the care necessary because, again, roughly 20% of the calls and the events that we're seeing are debris removal across the country, and I think those numbers are probably consistent with what you may see in your area of operation as well. I did say that we don't use tools, but I will actually tell you that we are exploring a pilot program along 2 different operations in the state of Florida for I-75 from Ocala to Gainesville, and then also up into I-95 through the 3 counties of Volusia, Brevard, and Flagler. We are using the powered blower, but we have actually a backpack version where the Safety Service Patrol operator can exit the vehicle quickly and remove some of the fluid debris that's on the road. And we're seeing a much quicker response time with that and an efficiency to that we do appreciate because, again, getting the guys inside the truck and back into patrolling is one of the quickest things we need to focus on, and the significance of doing that also decreases our chances for these extra accidents and the secondary occurrences that we're seeing. But I hope some of this conversation is allowed you guys just to take a look at your own training programs and protocols that you guys currently have within the different states and kind of the regulations, because, again, we're always looking for best practices. If we find something better, then I think it's important for us to go back and look at our own training programs and establish those new techniques and procedures that allow us to become even more efficient and more safe. Because ultimately, it's kind of the culture that we're creating on the road as the operators expand and learn different ways and techniques to use to remove debris. That's the most important part of that. So I'll pause for questions, Todd and Sam, and if anyone has any concerns on some of the data we're pulling or questions on that, I'm more than happy to explain that in further detail.
Thanks, Matt and Tom. Anybody have any questions for Matt and Tom about what they do in Florida? Anybody have any questions about any of the other presenters or anything we want to go back to here?
Or Todd, I'd be interested to hear any sort of best practices on debris removal, like Auto Base shared, if there's anybody out there doing anything differently than what you heard today.
I think most of our agencies have the horror stories of personnel getting struck clearing debris. So yeah, it's definitely something that we need to make sure we share.
Yeah, I think it's been a good topic.
Yeah, definitely. Sam, you want to move us forward with the?
Yeah, now we got to find our next topic. We do these calls. We try to do these calls every 3 months or so. It actually takes a lot of effort pulling them together and finding the presenter. So certainly I'm appreciative of everybody who took time to both help us prepare this call and certainly presented on it. We had some good interaction in the chat room, and we're learning how to open up phones and stuff so we can hear your questions directly. So we're certainly enjoying the interaction on these. This topic was chosen by this sort of poll that you see in front of you now. So we're looking to get your input on the next topic, or at least one in the future that we should cover here. And if you have an idea that's not on our list here, that's what the other category is for, and you'll probably see it show up in the poll after our next call, so we might be a couple calls away, but this is how most of these topics got put up here. There's a steering committee or somebody suggested them at the end of one of our calls. So I think as Matt covered here, 20% or so of what you guys are doing is debris removal, so certainly worth, I think, taking some time to figure out maybe the best practices in that. I think I really liked Tim Peck in Maryland's his 3 different tools off of one battery charger. I have to get that for around the house too, Tim. That's a good brand, and I think he said it's $1,200, so it seems pretty affordable. And I think I heard some people on the call saying they were interested in maybe trying that out. So that's really the goal of these calls, to show you things that maybe you can test in your areas, or in the case of the one I presented, the GATOR Getter, maybe to save you from that step. Owen in Missouri DOT, I think that JAWS tool really looks smart to me. I'm not an engineer, but I thought of what we saw, that was the most elegant, if you will. It doesn't affect the push bumper. You have to drive over things. You don't have to strap something special on. So that looks like it's really, it's got a good future there, and anxious to see your success with it and maybe other states as they start to try it out. The road rake from Australia that Liz covered with some assist from Corey Green, thank you. I don't know, Liz, I think it was kind of mixed reviews on that. We may have to do further research on that tool. Some good uses for it, but obviously some issues too about having to have a special vehicle or mount it to a vehicle and never really knowing when you're going to need it exactly. And certainly driving over large items first seems dangerous to me, but anyway, appreciate Autobase coming on. They have so much experience in so many different states, and just in my conversations with them, just comparing how one state prefers debris removal compared to another, and these guys are operating in, I think it's 8 DOTs and maybe 3 or 4 toll road authority, so they've seen a lot of different ways to do debris removal. So appreciate you guys sharing some of the stuff that you've seen over your experience. So I think we are getting pretty much to the end of this one, a little early. So we can open it up if anybody has a question for the group, either on this topic or maybe something you guys are struggling with. This was always intended to be a sort of a portal for you guys to share information with one another. I know sometimes it can be hard on sort of a net meeting conference call situation, but if anybody does want to star pound and unmute the phone, might get some feedback here from 20 or 30 so of your co-workers or peers in other states.
Sam, Brian Purvis put down innovations in scene lighting may be a good topic for something as well, which I agree with. One of the things that we see a lot of times that more lights isn't always better. So I think one, scene lighting, and then two, your emergency lights at the scene may be a good topic.
I think it might be helpful, too, Todd, to just run through from the top of the list here just to give people a little bit more of an idea of what each of these cover. We try to make the topics seem as clear as possible, but I just they may have some additional background that may help people, too. The emergency, I'm not sure what just happened here, but I'm just going to open that back up. Okay.
Whoa, where'd all our voting go?
I'm not sure. So if you can vote again, that would be great. I'm not sure what just happened there.
Well, they should wait till they hear your description.
Yeah. Emergency response classification, that was not the intention. I wasn't trying to erase everyone's vote. But emergency response classification, that was actually recommended by Jason Josie. That's an idea of looking at which patrols are classified as first responders versus emergency response. Todd, to your point, we could cover lighting on the vehicle. You have red lights, yellow lights. I know that does vary by state to state, and the meanings vary and the restrictions vary by state to state as well. So we could take a look at that. Working with other first responders, that's pretty clear. Taking a closer look at how different patrols train with first responders, talking about on-scene communications and interactions with first responders, after-action reviews with other first responders. How do you collaborate with EMS, firefighters, police, certainly, tow vehicles, taking a closer look at some best practices there. Standard operating procedures, this and the next two are actually three topics that we've covered previously. So if you are interested in these topics, I do encourage you to go on safehighways.org. Under our Idea Sharing Network tab, you can see, I believe they were sessions 1, 2, and 3. At this point, they are a bit dated. We started this webinar series in 2015, so we thought it was definitely worthwhile to revisit some of these. But taking a look at different state standard operating procedures, how they're outlined, what's covered, some best practices there, and that would go towards what Jason talked about earlier with the Safety Service Patrol Industry Association, unifying some of those goals. Performance measures, how do you track success? We have seen that these patrols are being more regularly recognized as a vital part of your TIM program, but how do you go about measuring that? How do you prove that? What metrics are most important to you? Is it response time? Is it time on scene? And is it clearance time? What are the expectations with your performance measures, and how do you go about measuring different incident scenes and responses? And then training. There are a lot of different ways to train drivers. I know that many states are starting to have training tracks that are available to them. I believe, Todd, you're working on one on Pennsylvania Turnpike, and North Carolina DOT presented on one previously. So taking a closer look at training and best practices. The push-pull-drag method, I believe that this one was recommended by John McClellan on our last steering committee call, but taking a look at how are push-pull-drag methods implemented, what does driver training look like for it, what equipment is used, what are the related policies involved with the push-pull-drag method. Taking a look at funding, how do we fund these patrols? Federal grants, federal help, internal resources, sponsorship, what are the different ways that these patrols can be funded, and how can we fund expansions as well? And then Safety Service Patrol technologies. Todd, we were on a call just yesterday, and you brought up a technology. I'm blanking on what it was. Is it HAP?
the Haas alerts, if anybody's using Haas, I know Kansas City Scouts using it. We're deploying it, and I know some other states are, so sharing that information would be helpful as well.
And I think we could also possibly combine that with some scene lighting. You know, are there some, Brian, you mentioned innovations in scene lighting, so that latest technology, just taking in general a look at how technology is helping this particular industry evolve over time. And I'm not sure what that, you know, what all we would end up covering in that, because we'd have to take a look at the latest technologies. But I do thank you for the options in the chat window as well. We can add those to the list. And if anyone, it looks like the push-pull-drag method is starting to take the lead here. If I'm reading that right, yes. If anyone is interested in presenting on all of these topics, one of our biggest challenges is seeing who's using the latest methods and best practices across the country, and then contacting that person to present. So if we have volunteers, I'd certainly welcome it, encourage it, and thank you in advance. And that's all I have, Tim.
Thank you, Liz. Todd, anything else for the good of the group?
No, I appreciate everybody attending, and like to thank our presenters again for great topics, and appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day to participate.
Thank you for emceeing for us here, Todd. You did a masterful job. The reason we do this primarily is for safety. So I want to keep everybody out there, and everybody certainly on this call, safe. Please stay safe in all that you do, so that we can talk to you again like this in another couple of months. All right? Thank you, everyone, for joining. Take care. God bless. Bye now.
Thank you.